everyone, I'm Heather. I'm back for a really quick video. This particular one is a tag, which tends to go quite quick for me, so I'm not worried about this. And this tag is the World Book Day tag, and it was created by Steve Donahue, and his video of it was quite funny because he spent quite a large chunk of it talking about sort of like hilarious things to do with Americans and why it is that they think crazy things and vote against their interests. I was tagged by Doris from Aldi Books, and her video for it was really cute because all of her books are like categorized by country. I love that. I should do that, except that actually it wouldn't really work for me because my book collection is way more sad, but I really liked it. I thought it was really cute. So I'll put both of those videos down below so you can peruse at will. So this particular tag, sorry, I am knitting and drinking in my house quite late at night, like everyone else is in bed. But I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? Knit some shit, drink some wine, do a tag. But anyway, so this particular tag is the World Book Day tag, which had me super confused because World Book Day in the UK is in March. And I was like, guys, no, this is all wrong. We've already done this. I explicitly remember buying a World Book Day costume for my child at 2 a.m. on Amazon in order for her to go to school with like, I think she was Sophie from the BFG. Anyway, I looked it up, calm down, I've sorted it all out. Apparently there's 2 World Book Days. The UK World Book Day, as I said, in March. The UNESCO World Book Day, or like International Day of the Book, which in the UK is translated really to World Book Night. Like they feel like they shouldn't confuse us by giving us 2 World Book Days. So they've given us a World Book Day and a World Book Night. Anyway, that's the one that's on the 23rd of April, which is the one that this tag is on about. And the questions for this tag are really cool. I really like them. I like watching this tag in general, so let's just get on it, shall we? Right, okay, so the first question is, what country do you currently call home? And is it the same country you were born in? So, I currently call Wales in the UK my home. I was not born here, but I'm American and I wasn't born in America either, so it all gets very confusing. I was actually born in Germany, but I think, to be fair, it'd be a bit like John McCain, like how he was able to run for president even though he was born in Panama, you know, because he was born like on American soil in Panama. I think it would be the same for me if I ever decided to run for president, because I think officially it was a US military base in Germany and thus is still American soil. But anyway, I was definitely born in Germany. I have like a birth certificate that says West Germany on it, so that's a bit of nugget to keep me feeling old for the rest of my life. So number 2 is, how many countries have you visited? Did you buy books there? So, are you ready for this heartbreaking bullshit? I have been to exactly 49 countries. This year, one of my resolutions was to finally nail that 50th country. I don't really want to talk about why I'm obviously not going to do that this year, or potentially next year or the year after, but you know, we have knitting and alcohol to cope with our problems, so it's fine. However, like I have played this game with several people, like on trains, in backpacker hostels, blah blah blah. And with the game of how many countries have you been to, the rules can get quite like sort of deep and pedantic, you know, like what counts as a country? You know, is it only UN designated countries? So then, you know, the Vatican doesn't count. You know, places that declare themselves a country don't actually count. Say like, what's that country that declared itself a country between Azerbaijan and Armenia? Like, God, I've been to this place and I was shocked by how good their internet service was. Anyway, I'll put it like up here somewhere. But like that place doesn't count if you're only counting like UN official countries. But like, can you count countries that say that they're a country? Because who's to say they're not a country? Just because like the US or whatever doesn't recognize them as a country, or the UN doesn't recognize them as a country, are they not a country? Also, what counts as visiting a country? So do you have to get out and walk on the ground, or can you pass through it on a train? Does that count as visiting a country? Because if not, I've never been to Belgium and can't count it as one of my countries. Also, what about airports? If you've been to the airport in a country, you've officially landed on the ground of the country, but you haven't been out in the country, have you? Does that count? Because otherwise, I can't count Dubai, or what is it? UAE is the actual country. So it all gets very pedantic and crazy, but anyway. On Doris's video of this, she's talking about like loads of different states she's been to as well, and how she sort of wants to go with her kid to all these different states. And I sort of thought, oh, how many states have I been to? Like, I don't think I've ever actually tracked. I've never sat down and thought, oh, how many states have I actually been to? And I think that's like the privilege of a kid, or the privilege of a kid that is like an army brat. You know, my dad was in the army. I lived in a bunch of different states, like traveled over a bunch of different states as a kid. Like, I didn't even write them down. Didn't even give a shit. I think I sneezed and I was on the other side of Pennsylvania once. Like, you don't even take these things in when you're in a car for 32 hours. Like, your right butt cheek is asleep, surrounded by potato chip packets. Oh shit. I just realized, like, I filmed this whole thing and now I'm like coming back to it. I was sort of like sitting here doing knitting and realized I never actually answered the second part of this question, which is, have you bought books in those countries? And I was like, should I just leave it? Because the answer is pretty much no. But I was like, no. I don't want to, you know, I'm a bit of a completist, you know, I want to answer everything. And the answer is just, yeah, no. I tend not to, unless I go to like an anglophone place, you know, like an English speaking place. And now that I sort of see the US and the UK as just my normal places, they're not really exciting places to go to anymore. I don't really like I like whenever I go to another place or whatever, like Germany or whatever, their English language book selection is going to be tiny, isn't it? Because it's like, obviously the people speak a different language and I don't speak German or whatever, you know, so I tend to just sort of avoid buying books. But I used to like to buy planners from those places, you know, like my yearly planner. I bought one in Germany once. I bought one in Turkey once. Like, it's just very exciting to have, you know, like a weird name for Monday in your planner every week. But other than that, no. Anyway, so number 2. Oh no, I've done number 2. I need to keep track. Okay, number 3 is, how well is the world represented in your personal book collection? So the short answer is not well, unfortunately. This has been sort of a thing of mine that I've wanted to sort of sort out and haven't really done. Like, it's been sort of on my list of things I should do for just ages, and it's still on my list. I still plan on sorting it out, but it's not looking good, really. And I thought, oh, should I sit down and really like try to figure out how much of the world is sort of represented in my bookshelves? And like, the problem mainly is that I don't have a lot of books. I do a lot of librarying, or used to. And I do a lot of like charity shop picking. Like, I'll go to like a charity shop and get a cheap book and then give it back to the charity shop when I'm done reading it. Or I'll borrow it from friends, or any books I buy I tend to give to friends afterwards. I'm like, oh, it's really good, you should read it. Like, I tend not to keep books in my house anyway, and the only ones that get to stay are either ones I haven't read yet or ones that were just so fantastic, just cannot foresee me parting with it in any way. So that's the main problem. Like, if I was able to count like books I've read and not just books I have in my house, I reckon way more of the world would be represented, you know. But anyway, I did like a thorough look through, right? And I did like tick marks. I stopped with the USA and the UK after it got too long to keep listing. Like, fuck it. The vast majority of the books I own are by British or American authors, and there's no denying it. But I had 1 German author, 1 Syrian author, 2 Japanese authors, 1 French author, 1 Turkish author, and 1 author from Afghanistan. Afghani? I don't really know the adjective for that. But, you know, basically that's the full extent. And I looked everywhere. I looked in like my one shelf bit. I looked in the books I've been hiding from myself in my wardrobe upstairs for ages. And I just have, that's like the absolute end of it. And I feel ashamed, to be honest. And I should do more. I should do more about that. Like all of these readathons that have been happening recently to do with like Australian fiction and Latinx fiction and sort of all this stuff. I should really delve into those more. And I think from right now, I will do. 1 a.m. resolution. Strongest kind. Okay. The next question is number 4. How many works in translation do you currently have? And okay, so going from the question that just happened, you know, it's not amazing and I won't lie about it. However, this question gets slightly better, and that is because in the UK grouping, I included everything from Wales. And I shouldn't have done that in hindsight because, well, for this question I could have distinguished them out, but I didn't realise, and then I didn't do that, and I can't be fucked to do it again. So like I just have to sort of like think in my mind, oh, how many books do I have that are translated from Welsh to English? And I think the answer is a shit ton. I do have quite a lot. I do read quite a lot of Welsh authors and sort of Welsh publishers, and quite a lot of them do write just like straight into English, like they just write in English, but quite a lot of them they do write it in Welsh first and then it'll be translated into English, and I quite like those. So I think I'm doing a little bit better with that question. Okay, so number 5 is, oh, these ones are good, like this question. I've been enjoying it on other people's tags. Tell us some weird facts about your country. And I didn't really understand if this was the country I'm living in or the country I'm from. I think quite a lot of other people don't really have that problem. So I've just done both, right? So I did a quick think for random factoids. And I did a Google search, as you do. And for the USA, did you know, if you have $10, a $10 bill, and no debt, you're wealthier than 15% of all American citizens. What? If that is not a measure of success, I do not know what is. Oh God, like that has thrown me all the way. That has picked me all the way up today, okay? Like I know that loads of people's reactions were like, that's really grim. I can't believe 15% of America are that sort of hard going. And it's like, no, I reckon that's just the norm, you know? And I am doing so much better than the norm, okay? I don't have any debt because pretty much I'm terrified of debt and would just like literally do anything to avoid it at all costs. But I'm also pretty certain I have a full £42 in my bank account. That's way more than $10. That's like 4 times the amount. God. Okay, also, another fun fact. 10 million Americans are descended from the 102 pilgrims that got off the Mayflower in 1620. How crazy is that? So like if you're not American, like if you are American, you've heard this story in literally every history class in every year of school of your life. But if you're not American, you maybe don't know that we idolize this ship called the Mayflower that took 120 people from England to the New World, America, in 1620, so that they could be Puritans, sort of away from the Church of England or whatever. They could be allowed to be puritanical or whatever. And they landed in 1620, I think. And then the first Thanksgiving was in 1621 with the sort of local native tribe. So that all, of course, ended up going badly for everyone, really. But when they landed, apparently they were busy, and then their children were busy, and then their children's children were busy. Like, to make 10 million out of 102 in, what, 400 years? That's good. That is some people getting busy, you know? That's doing good. Okay, and then my weird factoid for Wales is that there are more castles per square mile than any country in Europe in Wales. So, like, you know, all of the castles in Germany, all of the castles in England, all of the castles in France, just like a shit ton, right? Wales is the country with the most castles per square mile. So, like, okay, to be fair, it's tiny. Like, the square mileage just in general is low. But also, the castle number is ridiculous. It's crazy. It's out of control. And mainly, sadly, to do with England's like 2,000-year battle to control Wales. So, you know, there's that. But there's so many effing castles around. Like, I think 2 years ago or so is when my husband and my kid and I decided that we were gonna like see all of them, or like as many as possible. Every weekend we try to make a castle go, you know. And we've seen loads of them, but there was like one of them that was just like in the back part of a pub. So there was like the pub and then a parking lot and then like an open field. And you just sort of go walking back there and there's just a bit of castle back there. It's like, you know, roughly 1,000 years old and just, you know, it's just back there. No one gives a shit about it. It's not like protected. You don't have to pay to see it. You just sort of like ramble off in that direction. And like nobody can be fucked to sort of like preserve it or anything. They're like, is like as common as rocks on the ground. Like we can't preserve all of them. You know, we'll go bankrupt. We have to just let some of them die. But anyway. Okay, so number 6 is, is there a work of world literature on your TBR? And I found quite a lot. So maybe I'm not doing too bad. You know, maybe question number 3 was a bit of a fluke and just sort of representative of the fact that I don't have books, you know, and not that I don't read world books. So one of the ones, as I was going through, I was like, oh, which one should I say? Blah, 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 blah. And the one that I thought, are you ready? The Travels of Marco Polo by Marco Polo. I will, at some point in my life, read this book because I think it's probably crazy interesting. Like, I got it, I think, on a sale or something, and I was like, oh my god, it's like a brand new book. Like, no one has read that. Like, somebody got this for somebody as a gift. And like, without even moving the original like layout of the bookmark, gave it away because they couldn't believe somebody got them this as a gift. But when I got it, I was like, I am fully gonna read that because it's gonna be so interesting. Like Marco Polo, what do you reckon? Like 1200s? Is that it? Like, so it's like his travels through the Silk Road and everything, like through China and Asia and everything, in like, yeah, sort of late 1200s. Because I think the book like was published in the early 1300s or in 1300 or something like that, and it's supposed to span a period of like a couple decades before that. Anyway, like one of the weird and crazy things about it is that it was written originally in like Franco-Italian. So like the guy, Marco Polo, he was from Venice, so he was Italian, right? But he wrote the sort of book originally, or did he write it? I think he dictated it or something, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look this up. But basically, the book itself was written in like Franco-Italian, which is like a language they reckon isn't actually or ever was a spoken language. It was only a literary language. Like the only use of it at all was to be written down and made books of, and people didn't actually speak it. And like sometimes it's called like a Venetian Italian or like Venetian French or whatever. Like it's just crazy. Like whenever you try to figure out like what kind of language it was, sometimes they talk about how it was French and sometimes how it was Italian. Like basically it was just like a weird meld. I find that fascinating because I'm deeply uncool. Anyway, every time I think, oh, I'm gonna read that, something happens and I'm like, no, now's not the time. Like it's quite big. And for something, you know, like obviously it's not going to be in like Old English, you know, it's not going to be in 13th century English because it wasn't written in English originally. It was translated into English later. So it's in like, you know, normal English. It won't be like really hard to read. It's not gonna be like the Bible, you know, like sort of painstakingly going through each paragraph trying to like decipher what's going on, or like Shakespeare or whatever. It's just going to be like, you know, normal reads. But I think it probably will still be a bit of a slog, a bit of a slow go. So I'm definitely going to have to be in the mood. I can see this being another one of my projects where I like pick it up on a whim and I get through like maybe a good 30 pages and then abandon it for a year or two and then come back. Like, and it'll just like live on my Goodreads and like the currently reading part for like 3 years. Oh, I have problems with that. Anyway, so that was the 6th one. What are we on now? What are we on now? What are we on now? Oh, 7. Tag other YouTubers not from your same country. So, this is also an issue. Like, do they mean YouTubers not from my country, as in America? Or do they mean YouTubers not from, like, my country, as in the country I live in, which is the UK? So that wasn't clearly explained, but it's okay. So I'm just gonna go out on a limb and just choose people who aren't American. And first I'm gonna go with Sian and Bert at PaSTORY time, because I feel like there's probably some really good travel stories going on in that flat of theirs. Like, I reckon they've got some good stuff to say about various countries they've been to and stuff. Also, I'm gonna go on a limb and say Sarah from Your True Shelf, because I reckon also there's some good travel stuff and also probably some really good world literature going on her shelves. So, if you guys don't want to do this tag, just, that's fine. That's fine. I will not be worried about that. But maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll want to do it. Thank you for watching this tag. I'm sorry if it was a bit of a ramble and a bit weird. And anyone else that wants to do the tag, please do it and say that you're tagged by me if you want, because I want loads of people to do it so I can watch these watch more of these videos, because I really do like watching them. Good night. Goodbye. Goodbye.